We are working now really hard with the Department of Enterprise Services to help them start an EIS process, an environmental impact statement process, to look at how to manage the area that is now known as Capitol Lake. We call it a sediment reservoir because in truth that's what it is. So the EIS will look at some different options. It'll look at managing the lake as it is, restoring the estuary, or doing a dual basin kind of project where it'd be estuary and freshwater area as well, basically moving the dam over. We really are pushing for full restoration. The state has hired a consultant team, Floyd Snyder from Seattle. They're going to be starting that process soon. They're going to be doing what's called scoping with the EIS process. That's what you do first, where they go out into the community and they start taking all kinds of input on what they should do, what they should be looking at, how people feel about it. We are hoping that we can really get people behind taking the dam out and restoring the estuary so that they can hear us loud and clear about what needs to happen there. And then throughout the process, if they finally do recommend estuary restoration, really working hard on the legislature to look for funding, appropriate the right kind of funding, make the right decision about estuary restoration, and get it done once and for all. And I would actually like to represent, or to recognize Representative Beth Doglio, who's here with us tonight. And she has been a solid supporter. And that means a lot to us because we had a hard time when we first got started because most of our District 22, in fact, all of our District 22 representatives and our senator did not support restoring the estuary. They were for the lake. And that's changed now. So we're very thankful for that support. A couple things. On the back table over there, there's a page with links to different information that you can get for estuary restoration, for the work DIRT is doing, for the work the Squaxin Island Tribe is doing, and for the work of Salmon Defense. And there's a flyer for our Festival of the Steh-Chass, which is coming up on September 1st, and it is going to be a party. We're going to have a really good time that day. We're having an opening ceremony that we're hoping will bring the canoe family up to the dam, and they won't be able to get through. It's going to be a spiritual ceremony, and there's probably going to be a lot of tears. And it's hard not to talk about this stuff sometimes without getting choked up because of the damage that's been done in the urban area here. But beyond the spiritual opening ceremonies, there's also going to be speakers and dancing and drumming and art vendors and nonprofits will have booths there. There'll be lots of food, and the evening entertainment is Taboo of the Black Eyed Peas, who is a rap artist, but amazing guy, and does a really good job. And the opening for Taboo is Thunderbirds Raised Her, and it's a trio of Native women that sing the songs of the struggle, Native struggle throughout time. So we're pretty darn excited about this whole summer, and I'm sure by mid-September we're all going to be taking some time off, but not too much because we still have to get that dam out. And then also, for people who are interested in being vendors at the festival, we are asking for native art vendors, but we're also asking for nonprofits to set up tables and booths. Nonprofits are free. You get to come in and set up and educate the public to what you're doing. What else do I need to talk about? I think that's it, right? So I'm going to open it up for some questions for myself or for Charlene or Candace. And we're going to take questions for about maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then we're going to let you guys talk to each other and ask questions without the whole, here, so, yes.
Have you got a sign-up sheet for the volunteer training for the festival here?
Can you repeat the question?
I'm sorry, do you have a sign-up sheet to volunteer for the festival?
I'm going to make one, like
Okay.
this in 1 minute.
Allie will make it. She's great at that.
Awesome. Thanks.
She's Allie on the spot. Other questions? Joel, you look like you have a question.
Yeah, the Nisqually and the Elwha rivers are recovering. Can you say how much they've recovered and how much, what effect that would have on the Deschutes if the dam was removed? You know, I'm just wondering. I know especially the Elwha River.
Right.
They removed the dams up there, and it's made amazing recovery already. I know.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing they didn't do in the Elwha is remove any of the sediment. They didn't take any of the sediment out of the system. They took the dams out and let it rip, you know. So the beaches in the near shore at the mouth of the Elwha River, because of the dams, were starved for sediment for years. And when that sediment was released, it built new beaches and formed an estuary. And so the recovery in the Elwha has been pretty rapid.
Yeah.
It's been amazing, actually. I mean, the river now has taken out roads and, you know, done all kinds of things that you know, we might think are a problem, but not really to the river. The river doesn't care.
What about the Nisqually?
The Nisqually is a little bit different because most of the sediment is trapped behind the Alder Lake Dam up high in the system. So there's not as much sediment that comes down the Nisqually. It's also different because the estuary at Nisqually was diked for agriculture. It was dammed because the dikes form a dam, but it was a different configuration. But it took 42 years to get that project completed. And several years ago, before Billy died, he was at Traditions Cafe with some other speakers, and they were talking about the Nisqually and how long it took. It was kind of a history lesson about Nisqually, and I asked him, because they were at Traditions, you could look right out the window and see the lake, you know, and it was covered with algae. And I said, what about the Deschutes? What about the lake? What are we going to do there? How are we going to get the dam out? And he just looked at me and pointed at me and he said, stay the course, you're going to outlive them.
Some say stay and some say Steh-Chass. I'm just wondering what the current Steh-Chass
Steh-Chass?
say.
Steh-Chass.
Steh-Chass.
Steh-Chass. Yes.
Curious about what your thoughts are on the development and the city's plan regarding the Isthmus area and how that affects like what's going to happen with Capitol Lake and administration stuff.
Right. I think that some of those things are going to be looked at during the EIS process. And the original design for estuary restoration that was done in the 2000s, that sounds so funny, the 2000s, not that long ago, but it seems like forever ago, was for a 500-foot opening. The original estuary was 2,000 feet wide, so it's only, you know, a small portion of what was originally there. 500 feet, I don't know, what does that mean? You know, would that go clear up to the new, whatever that building is that they're working on now? The mistake by the lake. We say the mistake is the lake, but that's all, yeah. And really the city would be wise to be looking at that whole area for sea level rise as well. So I'm sure that's something that Candace would agree with. So, Greg?
I was curious what parts of Olympia that we see today were village sites or you know, special gathering sites for food, etc.
Of course, you know that some of the land has changed and there's some fill here.
and some of the creeks and streams are covered up with asphalt, concrete. If you could imagine the necessity of having water, so wherever there would be water, usually there was probably a place that would be very dear and near to the heart of a tribal family. So I would say wherever there was a creek or stream, there probably was a lot of activity by the tribal people. There have been some science that has been done of predictive analysis of what they thought might be around these areas, not just here. But one of our elders that I mentioned, Randy Christ, said that he was just a little guy and he came up into the Deschutes Estuary before the dam came in. He was with his grandmother, and he said that the beaches were just white. He remembered the beaches were white. And what that is an indicator of is that the tribal people had utilized this area, and there was a lot of shellfish still on the beaches, and there were probably a lot of shellfish middens. And I keep looking over there at Mo, because Mo was telling me about this awesome site where there was this huge shell midden. And our people, I don't see Jim and Candace and others. One of our elders, our ancestors, he said that there were so many tribal people, it was like sand on the beach. There were so many people living in the area. There were diseases, though, that came through the land that took out villages, he said, overnight. Total populations just disappeared. And one of those areas is the Black Lake area. And I'm thinking that probably and if you ever look in the diaries of some of the early pioneers in their journals, there was one, and I can't remember their name, but they were saying how when they first came into this area, the people were talking about the native people were so different. And now the people, of course, have changed. We've adapted, tribal people have adapted, but however, we've kept a lot of our important teachings with us. And thank you for the question.
Okay, I gotta tell you something. Oh, okay, ask your question. Okay.
I just was curious, why did they dam it in the first place? Was it just because they
Oh,
got
yeah.
pretty nice, or what?
So one of the links on
Question?
that piece of paper that I,
Can you repeat the question?
oh yeah, I'm sorry. The question was, why did they dam the river in the first place? So why was the lake formed? So one of the links that I left on that piece of paper in the back is a link to a history on the Squaxin Island Tribe's website that talks just about the history of the Deschutes Estuary. And it goes way back to the late 1800s and why they, how they tried to dam that river over and over again for all kinds of reasons. To help with, they wanted to put tidal locks in at one point to bring the ships up and head them not, at any time during any tide. With the tidal lock, they could keep the river full so that the ships could come in and go up to the brewery, to the Olympia Brewery, and help them move their supply out. And then also there were some mills up there. I think there was a lumber mill, and then that kind of started to fade a little bit when the truck and the train, the train and land transportation basically became available. There were city fathers over the years that just wanted to create more access from downtown to the west side, better access. That kind of got talked about and then it died off and talked about and died off. Names like Carline, Henderson, Yanich is some of the folks that were originally on city council, mayors, in the legislature, etc. Yantis, not Yanich, sorry. I'm from Grace Harbor, that's a Yanich, this is our name. And then there was Little Hollywood, which was finally the last straw. So during the Depression and during the Hooverville area or time when There were a lot of shanty towns. There was the Little Hollywood area that was right below the Capitol on the estuary, and there was no sewer sewage management at the time, so everything kind of got dumped into the bay, and it didn't smell very well. It was considered a shanty town, and it was considered a red light district, and it was also the place where all the people that were brought in to do the labor on building downtown ended up living because they didn't have enough money, or they were, of different ethnic backgrounds, and they kind of got shuffled off into the Little Hollywood area. And people thought it was a blight on the area. And there was a lot of work then on the Capitol campus, making it beautiful and having the view corridor. And so they wanted to wipe out Little Hollywood. And they did. They finally got permission to evict everybody, and the land was purchased by, I can't remember if it was the city or the state, if somebody remembers. And they burnt all the shanty houses down and cleaned it up, made it respectable. And then the dam started being planned and worked on, and they appropriated some money, and basically the dam was built between 1948 and 1951. And the main reason was to build a corridor from the downtown area up to the west side on the Deschutes Parkway. And then, of course, the main reason also was to create a sediment reservoir so that all that sediment wasn't going out into the harbor. It protected the Olympia Yacht Club and the marinas and the port. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. But if you look at that history piece that Emmett O'Connell wrote, it's on the Squaxin Island website. It's pretty thorough. It'll tell you a lot. All right, so Representative Doley, I don't know if she left, but she just reminded me that, so the legislature gave the Department of Enterprise Services $4 million to do the environmental impact statement. There's still $1 million that needs to be appropriated for that to complete the whole process. This process is going to take 3 or 4 years. It's a big deal. I have a question for you, for all of you out there who pay taxes. Would you be willing to cough up a few bucks for a taxing district on a river management district to start the ball rolling and be able to leverage some money from the state? How many would you? Call Representative Dolio and tell her that, because she's interested in knowing that people in the local community are willing to help.